Well, that's a great way for me to get probably the back of my wife's hand against my lap because it's a small theater. There's only capacity is only 75. They'll go in the big production space in the winter time. So if my phone is up, then yeah, it'll be noticeable. But it's Scooble Day. We're excited around here in Detroit. The odds are actually in our favor today. Yeah, so
should be good.
Hopefully I'll be able to catch, I don't know, the last 5 innings. But yeah, it'll be good.
You know, they make earbuds these days. They make an earbud. You can listen to that thing on satellite radio.
You are a bad influence, Mr. Hall.
Got to always improvise, right? You got to be able to read the room and optimize every opportunity you have. That's what we're here for today. So
we are salespeople after all. That's for sure. We're going to talk a little bit about improvisation today, actually. I want to share the question of the day. This came up in our leadership meeting just the other day. And that is, and I already know Scott's answer to this, but do we call our customers, partners, clients, or something else? Drop your preferred term in the chat. I'd like to thank Scott Mossberg for bringing this up. So I think this came up in a conversation you had with your team, Scott, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
Do you have a consensus around the office?
We use the word clients. So I know Scott Hall uses the word partners. But they're both good words. I mean, they're both, they work. I mean, it's the relationships that we talk about all the time. So
I agree. I think regardless of what you choose to call your customers, regardless of what word you use to refer to them, and Doug, I see you dropped in with partners there. Thanks for that. Do we get the impression that they are more than just transactional relationships, right? Leslie's in with clients. Thank you, Leslie. I was always told that the difference between a customer and a client is that a customer is someone who buys something from you. A client is someone who comes to you for advice and expertise. So if you're in consulting or coaching or training like I am, I typically refer to my customers as clients. Because I trade in expertise, I trade in experience, I trade in intellectual property to an extent, but we're working through ideas here. Thanks, Adam. Sherry, you go with all three. Sherry, tell me more. Sherry, it looks like you're trying, but you're still muted. Let me see if I can.
Is that better?
There we go.
Okay. Well, I just chose all three because they're my customers, they're my partners, they're my clients, and a lot of them can become my friend. So that's why I chose all three.
I like that. Thanks for sharing. I'm seeing a lot of different things here in the chat. Appreciate people popping in. If you're in a place where you can turn your camera on, please do that. These things always go better if you have a place where we can see you. But I think the key here is that regardless, and I want to get this point across, I think it's pretty clear, but I want to get this point across that, look, I use the word customers generically because I train a lot of different teams from a lot of different companies. But the idea here is we are trying to home in on the people we most like doing business with because we can provide the most value, right? And, we get into the ethos of what we're trying to do here and what we've been trying to do for the last, couple of weeks or a couple of sessions anyway, is really distill what we're good at. And I've been doing this for a long time. Most companies, even successful companies, they're not very good at articulating exactly what they're good at. There's this, unconscious competence that comes through in a lot of senior salespeople. And I think, when you think about growth, when you think about sustainability, when you think about succession plans, right? I think companies need to understand exactly what they're good at, Because in order to bring on new salespeople, whether it's to replace retiring salespeople or to just grow the business, we need to understand what we're best at, and we need to understand who appreciates that the most, so that we can hopefully be as efficient as possible with our growth. And I know, like, it may not interest many of the people on this sales call, this morning, about whether or not this company is able to grow beyond your own territories. You want to just grow your own territories, right? But the most efficient way you're going to be able to do that is by being hyper-focused on doing exactly the right things for exactly the right people. I don't know a single person on this call doesn't want to make more money this year than they did last year, and doesn't want to make more money next year than they did this year, or than they're going to this year, right? So how do we manage to eliminate the fluff and the stuff that doesn't matter, so that we can focus more of our precious time on what will move the needle? That's what we've been spending the last couple of weeks with the building blocks, right? And in this session, we're going to transition that. We're going to go a little bit further. I'm going to give you 2 frameworks today that are, I think, going to help you look at your customer conversations a little bit differently, and are also going to help you look at your customers differently. So 2 weeks ago, it was 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, we got together and we talked about, I gave you all a challenge. And I said, look, if you are a field rep, I want you to have at least 1 or 2 conversations with your best customers, asking them why they buy from you. If you are a showroom rep or someone who is handling more inbound than anything, I'd like you to just ask your customers a couple of questions. Hey, what made you think of us today? What made you come back? Right? Drop a 1 in the chat if you did that, please. Everybody is feverishly moving toward their keyboards at this point. Doug's in with a 1.
Jeff, just to cut in real quick, there were a couple
Yes,
people that we've added to the staff. Adam Taylor, you'll see he'll look like one of the Brady Bunch people in there. And then Leslie Gilmart is on this call now as well. Adam's a new employee, new to the team, so he may not know what you're preferencing, but we're going to get him into the previous recordings and he can piggyback on that. But I think his interaction is going to be good regardless. So I just want to let you know about those 2 additions. So thanks.
Yeah, somehow I was left off of the email strand.
I was going to say, Leslie, because we go back, at least a couple of months now.
Yeah, good to see you. I know. Like I called Scott. I'm like, what am I missing? And I looked he sent me the email. I'm like, yeah, I'm not on these. So hi.
Good to see you again. And Adam,
Good
welcome
to see you
aboard.
as
Full transparency, I did not create that list. Full
Thank you, Jeff.
transparency. So
I did think we had a couple of distribution list errors, and I'm glad we're getting that sorted out. The recordings are available for all that. And Leslie, Adam, if either of you or anybody else who gets added to these calls later, if you need some refresher, you need to get brought up to speed, just send me a message, send me an email. We'll hop on the phone for 20, 30 minutes. I can get you caught up and at least direct you to, the main ideas of those recordings, so that as you watch them, you can, hopefully get up to speed a little more quickly. Doug, Sherry, Thomas, care to share your experience, what you learned?
Well, your question was, did I ask the questions? I did ask the questions. Unfortunately, the answers I got are not going to further this discussion very much. The first customer I got gave me what you might expect to be the boilerplate, simple, brush off answers. Oh, you guys have always done well by us. You've serviced us. You've been good to us. We like to work with you. And when I asked to push, I knew your next question would be, push a little more specifics.
Yeah.
I really didn't get more specifics from him. The second one I tried was really, it didn't really apply the question, because there was someone who was not buying from us, who I was trying to get to buy from us.
Okay.
And I actually said, more or less, why aren't we doing business? I flipped it the other way.
Okay.
And they gave me some answers about their internal structure and people that changed and things of that nature. But then they followed up with a very quick, But we're looking to do something with you now, and let's see what we can do. And once I had that entree, I didn't really want to push the other avenue. I didn't want to go back to why weren't you buying from us. I wanted to go ahead with the positive direction I was headed.
Well, it's a gutsy question to ask someone who's not buying from you why they're not buying from you, but it sounds like it created some momentum for you, something you could do something with anyway.
Yeah, all in all, they were both very good meetings, but it doesn't probably help the general group right now with the discussion.
But since we're going to get further into that discussion, it's actually a perfect entree into the talk today. So thanks for sharing that. Thomas, how about you?
So I'm in a showroom, and I'm in Tampa. And so one thing was kind of simple for us when we asked, in general, why you're here or why you're come back. And for the new customers, it was something real simple. It was just our Google presence had no pictures for a long time. So Lazara, who's my partner in the showroom, she's done a good job of getting all those pictures and getting them on Google. And we've noticed a big difference. People have said, hey, we saw the pictures of the showroom. So, just something as simple as that. And the other thing that really more pertains to Lazara and I are, or Lazara and me, is, trying to take the time with the small customers to give them the attention that we give to the bigger customers. And so Lazara does a very good job with that. I try my best to do that on the equipment side. And so we got good feedback from that. Like they said that when they go to the restaurant depots of the world and ask questions, that they're just really not getting attention and not getting the service they want. So that's the response we got from them, was one, visibility online, and two was attention for the small stuff, I guess.
Awesome. That's a great stuff for today. Sherry, I don't want to leave you out.
Okay. Basically, I asked the question, why do you buy from me and Tej? And they basically said it's just the knowledge that you provide us about your product and excellent customer service. You try to always reply back either by phone or email the same day. So that was the question I asked, and those are the answers that I got from that question.
Awesome. Thank you. Taking a couple notes here that I'm going to refer back to in a couple of minutes. Thank you for sharing your experience there. Thank you for trying it. I mean, look, it's a gutsy thing to do, to ask somebody a question like that, right?
Can I add something to that?
You may, please.
So one of the things that I hear often without even asking is my clients say to me, I'm only going to buy from you because you're the only one who shows her face.
Wow.
Yeah. Because they know when I'm supposed to be there, they look up from their desk and I'm standing right there at the exact same time every week.
Yeah.
Sometimes begging for business.
Love that. I think, look, we see this in every industry, but as we think about these, and Scott's just taunting us all right now. Scott, why do you do that?
One of my customers I'm visiting right now.
We talk about every industry. These companies believe that we need to get more with less, right? We're trying to maximize efficiency. We're, leveraging inside sales teams where we can. And look, we have some inside salespeople on this call. We have some inside salespeople in this, in this company. There's nothing wrong with inside sales. Quite frankly, those inside salespeople, Leslie, are going to reach people you can't reach, because you can't cover Michigan from Tampa, right? But again, tying into what do our best customers, the ones that we're most fulfilled with by working with, and the ones that are hopefully most fulfilled by working with us, that's what we're focusing in here. And so when we take that step back and we say, okay, we got 6, 7 different branches rolled up under one training umbrella. Jeff, we got inside salespeople, we got showroom salespeople, we got outside salespeople, we got people in the Carolinas, we got people in the Midwest, we got people down south in Florida. How are we going to do all this at the same time? Well, that's why this is so, personally focused up to this point, right? I'm going to continue with that thread here. We're going to get into a little more about each of your territory dynamics and also the very specific guide for having these conversations. And what I want to reiterate here is that your ability to take something away that is going to work for you from these sessions, not just this session, but all of these sessions, that's the goal, right? I'm not here to tell everybody that they got to do it the same way, because that's not how it works. My goal is to make you think about something that you can do differently to maximize your impact, minimize your time spend, right? And maximize the value that you get out of that time, out of that energy, out of that effort. So thank you for throwing that out there and sharing that, Leslie. I appreciate that. I want to advance this presentation here. I've got a guide that I want to share with you. I created this guide a couple of years ago. I call it 5 Questions for Killer Customer Conversations. And these are the conversations that we need to have. And there are 3 distinct benefits to having these conversations that I will share with you after we get through all 5 of them. Some of you may have seen this before. Doug, you and I talked a couple of weeks ago, so I know I shared this guide with you ahead of time because you asked for some help, getting ready, or you didn't ask for help, but you suggested that you were having one of these conversations soon, so I shared this ahead. I've talked about this, I've written about this in the past. I think that, and when we go back to the first session, really, when I say how many of you know why your best customers buy from you, 80% of people don't. And it's just because they don't ask, because it's easier to make assumptions, and we all have too many things to do to stop and have these conversations. But these conversations are the linchpin of your growth. And so when we look at question 1, some of you were willing to ask this: why did you choose to do business with us? And Doug, your experience with that question, I could have predicted it. Hey, why did you choose to do business with us? Oh, well, it's your service. Well, it's because you show up all the time. Well, it's because, you reply quickly. Well, it's because, you've got pictures on your website now, and we like looking at what we're going to buy before we guess on a description, right? Some of those answers are more specific than others. Most times when you get an answer to this question, it is going to be in the form of the easiest answer to this question, right? And like I said, 95 out of 100 sellers refuse to ask, and 80% would be shocked to know the real answer, right? So will you be gutsy enough to ask? It feels like a risk. It's not really a risk. It feels like a risk. That's why most people don't do it. But when you think about the gold that's at the end of this discussion, I believe that risk is worth it. It doesn't make it any easier to ask. It's still that little lump in your throat, right? It's like when you were a teenager and you wanted to ask that girl or that boy out on a date, and you just look kind of, can I do this? It's funny, a personal story. My daughter is 16 and she's in the theater, and there is a boy in her theater group that, they both very clearly like each other. They hang out all the time. Everybody's like, duh, when are you guys just gonna go out? And neither one of them has the guts to ask the other one right now. It's funny. But, question number 2, that's why question number 2 has to be, can you please be more specific about that? And not only do you say, I need you to be more specific, the key here is telling them why you need them to be more specific. Leslie, you and I have been doing business together for years. I've always appreciated our working relationship. I feel like you've helped me learn so much that's helped me with some other clients. I feel like I've, remember that time I was able to come and save the day, or maybe 10 times I'm able to come and save the day. I really appreciate where we're working, our working relationship. And it would, gosh, if I had a dozen more like you, my life, my job, my ability to serve all of you would be so much easier. I'm just curious. The more specific you can be, the more I can make sure that I'm delivering exactly what you need from me. And I just want to make sure that I know exactly what's important to you so that I can deliver on that. And quite frankly, it would also help me to find more customers like you if I knew a little bit more about what was so valuable about my approach. So what happened there? I just let my guard down. This is the tough part. I just let my guard down. I gave them a very specific reason why I let my guard down. And when you let your guard down, it gives them permission to let theirs down. The reason that Doug, that first answer you got was so, we'll call it on the surface, so, almost generic, really. And it's not a shot at your customer, but like, they stayed on the surface because, I don't know, is it safe to get vulnerable? I don't know. And you'll find that in different parts of the country, it is easier to get vulnerable than in others. Everybody knows their customers pretty well here. But again, you do it first and you give them permission to do the same. And Leslie, I think what you got was a little bit more or a little bit deeper than a surface level answer. You know what, Leslie, you're the only one who shows up all the time. And not only that, and not that you're the only one who calls on us all the time, but you show up. That means something. I like someone who's going to get in their car and knock on my door. I like someone who's going to pay for parking in order to see me, right? Like that's a really powerful thing. And we're starting to, and Doug, I see your hand, I'll come to you in a second. We start to understand very clearly the things we need to do more of, and maybe the things that we don't need to do as much. This is going to be key for the second half of today's discussion when I share some territory dynamics and some time management stuff. But Doug, go ahead. See if we can unmute you here. There we go.
There we go. No, my question, I think I just missed a little bit of what you just said there. And when you asked the second question, can you please be more specific? You said that the key to that is that to expose yourself by saying the reason I am asking is
yes. ...
Is that
yes.
Okay?
Now, for the record and the transcript, we always have to be careful when we expose ourselves.
Right. Okay. That's
punchline, rim shot, everything. Like that was a joke, guys. It's okay to laugh on a Friday morning. But what I mean is the reason why is that's where you're letting your guard down. Right. And so can you be more specific and then just leaving it out there? They don't know where to go with that. We do have to lead the witness here. But you lead the witness, you give them the reason. I need you to be more specific. I'm asking you to be more specific if you're willing, because your relationship means so much to me. I want to make sure that I'm always serving it. Also, if I know what's important to you in your words, I will have the words to communicate directly with other people like you. Now, the hair standing up on the back of some of your necks right now because you're like, wait a second, why would anybody want to help me? Your best customers want to help you. If they don't, they're not your best customers. And we can talk about how your best customers don't get any service from you if you're not still in business. But again, you're not going to be able to ask all of your customers this. You're going to need to be able to ask your best customers this, and they're going to want to help you. So if you are specific enough and complimentary enough with your reasons for asking them to be more specific, you will find that you get not only more specific answers, but specific answers that will help you. The third question you want to ask, why do you continue to do business with us? So if we go back to that first question, is why did you choose to do business with us? Maybe the first time, maybe the second time. Question 3 is, why do you continue? And I think you're going to get different answers for this than you will, from question 1. Leslie, people continue to buy from you because you show up all the time. Did you wear them out, for the first purchase? You may have, or it may have been timing for the first purchase, right? And that's the thing. Some people are going to say, we bought from you the first time because we needed something. You were right down the block and you had what we needed, so we took it. We bought it. But the reason they keep coming back into the showroom, far different, right? So here's where I really want you to pay attention to. Hey, what are the things they're saying that you do well? And what are the things that you're assuming are important that they're not mentioning? Now, just with these first 3 questions, and I have 2 more to give you, just with these first 3 questions, we've gotten 2 very, very valuable insights. One is some direct customer messaging. We have gotten messaging from our best customers directly from their mouths that will help us find more like them. That's how we grow. So that's really valuable. The other thing, and don't sleep on this, anytime you can have an open, heartfelt, vulnerable conversation with anybody, your relationship gets better. If you're willing to open up and they're willing to reciprocate, your bond just got tighter. I don't know anybody on this call that doesn't want a better relationship with their best customers. That is invaluable currency. And I'll show you what you can do with that right now. Question 4, do you know anybody else who might appreciate the same value? Just ask for a referral. I saw a stat, this was a couple of years ago, I was getting prepared for a talk. The data that I saw was that it was like 89% of active customers would be willing to provide a referral, and like 11% of reps were willing to ask for one. And I think the biggest reason that reps don't want to ask for referrals is they already feel like, all right, I'm already on my heels. I'm giving them the best pricing I can. I don't know if I'm on solid ground with this person, with this client, with this partner. Do I really want to ask for something else? I want to be a giver, not a taker. Asking for another referral feels like a taker. I'm going to be up, or being a taker, I'm going to feel like, maybe are they going to be upset with me for thinking that they're not good enough? Like, there are a lot of knots we can tie ourselves into as salespeople, which is why so many people refuse to ask for referrals. But they're out there if you ask for them, and we rarely get what we don't ask for. And so you take the openness, the honesty, the vulnerability of that conversation. You tell them how much you appreciate them, and you tell them how much it would be helpful if they knew somebody that might appreciate the same kind of specific value. They're not going to refer you to their competitor. They're going to refer you to a colleague, especially if you're talking to chefs or general managers. It's a small industry, relatively speaking. They know people that would do you well, and they know people who wouldn't. They know people that you would take care of, and they know people who they don't want you to. They're going to send you in the right direction. If you got one referral a quarter, what would that do to your business? So the next question, because I told you there were 5, and these 2 kind of go hand in hand. So question 4 is, do you know anybody who might appreciate the same value? Question 5 is, might you be willing to introduce us? If they're willing to pass you a name, they're willing to introduce you. If they're not willing to pass you a name, then we just learned something about that relationship. Now, not everybody has the time to introduce you personally. I can share some ideas with you at another time about, maybe, drafting an email for them, or having a template of an email draft that you can send them. Look, I'm going to make it easy for you. Like, I'm going to just give you a structure here. I just want you to, make this email template your own, if that's easier. And if you could introduce us that way, that'd be great. Or, hey, can we get a cup of coffee or a beer or something like that? At a time when it makes sense. Like, there are a lot of ways to facilitate this. But if you can ask for the intro, if you can ask for the referral, you can earn the intro. I think this is super valuable. Anybody in the audience, well, let me just say, try this, tap into the chat. Type a 1 in if you think you can do this, type a 2 in if you don't think you can. Leslie's on the board. Dupree's on the board. Oh, we got a bunch of people. Awesome. Awesome. So I'm going to assign a little homework right now. We meet again in 2 weeks. I would like you all to identify. You can keep this to yourself. I'm not going to grade this homework, right? But I'm going to challenge you all to identify 3 to 5 people you can have this conversation with in the next month. This is a game changer. And if you could add, I mean, just think about it. If you could add 1 replica of a great customer every quarter, what would that do to your business? And is there a faster, easier, better way to do it? I don't think there is. And if you find one, please let me know. Awesome. So now what do we do with it? And this is where, if you were here last time, or if you saw the recording, or if you read the newsletter that went on Monday, I told you all I was going to ask you to bring a, something to write on and something to write with to this section, or to this session here today. I want to show you a way that I break down territories and a way that I break down territory growth. And I've got a little bit of an assignment. I'm actually going to give you a few minutes to work on it here today. But I want to introduce this concept. Has anybody read, just drop a 1 in the chat if you've read The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey. I think I talked about this a couple sessions ago. That might have been with another client though too. Just drop a 1 in there if you have. It's an old book, came out in the late 80s, really powerful. It was not specifically written as a sales book, but success leaves clues. And this is a book that it's basically a guidebook for effectiveness. Yeah, Leslie, I did too. Actually, what's funny is I started reading it. My mom bought me this book, I think when I was in high school, and I didn't read it because my mom bought it for me. And then I remember picking it up again when I was right after college and just having my mind blown by it. But there are a lot of words in this book. And I'm not real good about sitting still. So it wasn't until much later when I actually listened to the audio version. And for what it's worth, I think this is the gold standard for audiobooks. You can hear a lot of authors or even a lot of voice actors, turning pages or, skipping lines in their digital copies of the book. This book felt like Covey just grabbed a microphone, put his feet up on a desk and talked for 13 hours. I mean, it's really, really incredible. But 13 hours, a lot of words. Anyway. This urgency and importance on an axis here, when you walk through Covey's explanation here, he's like, there are things in life that are urgent and important. This is the quadrant of necessity. You have to do this stuff. You're going to get a call. It's going to be a big thing. You're going to need to drop everything for it. You have to do this stuff from a time management standpoint. There's the stuff that's really important, but not that urgent. This is the quadrant of personal leadership. This is stuff that, hey, look, I know I need to eat better. I know I need to work out, but I'm young and I'm invincible. I can do that later. I know I need to invest in myself professionally. I know I need to invest in myself personally. But right now, there's too many things in front of me. I've got too many things to do. I've got kids. I've got a job. I've got friends. I've got family. I've got other issues, right? This stuff gets put away. But this is our quadrant of personal growth. This is the stuff here. These are where investments get made. Quadrant 3 is what Covey called the quadrant of waste. I'm sorry, this is not the quadrant of waste. He called this the quadrant of deception. Why? It's urgent, but not important. But stuff that appears urgent often gets mistaken for being important. And this is where we have to be discerning. This is where we have to think. And look, I could teach an entire hour on this stuff because I think it's fascinating and I think there are instructive lessons for all of our lives, let alone our sales careers. But I want you to pay attention to these definitions here of these quadrants because it's going to be a perfect overlay of what we talk about on the next slide. I mentioned the quadrant of waste. That is stuff that is not urgent and not important. This is the stuff we need to avoid. That's why it's red, right? So 1 and 2 are in green. We got to do that stuff. Quite frankly, we got to do more of number 2. We have to do more of that quadrant 2 stuff. The only way we can do more stuff in quadrant 2 is by being really applying a lot of scrutiny to what we see and what we're acting on in quadrant 3. Right? We have to be a little more discerning there. And hopefully by eliminating the stuff that we do in quadrant 4. How does this apply to territories? Well, I think that for a long time, people have looked at their client list in terms of who is new and who is old, who is new and who is existing. Instead of looking at who's new and who's existing, why don't we look at who is growable and who we have access to? So what do I mean by that? If you are growable, which means you've got projects I can help you with. Maybe you've got projects I can help you with, but that's really only going to bring you up to par with last year. I would say that person's not that growable. That company, that restaurant, not that growable. If you know that you've got somebody who's working on a new expansion or needs to replace some of their equipment, or they're going to redo their entire dining room, then that's probably going to bring in more revenue than it did last year. So we're going to think about them as someone that we can really grow with. When we think about access, well, will they take our calls? Leslie, when you knock on their door, do they answer? Or do you get ignored because they don't know you, right? So we're just thinking about, based on how much business we do with them, based on the restaurants or the accounts that are in our territories, how much room do we have to grow with them? So how much more of their wallet share can we get over baseline? And then ultimately, how likely are they to answer when we try to contact them? Those companies, those accounts that are growable and accessible need to be our top priorities. The accounts that are growable but not that accessible, those look like the new accounts that we need to break into, right? We need to spend more time thinking about how to break into these kind of accounts. Every once in a while, you're going to have enough room to grow in quadrant 1 that you're not going to need to worry about quadrant 2. But we all know, and the analogy I always heard when I was growing up in sales was, you can only squeeze so much blood from a stone. You got to go find new stones. So we need to, at some point, acknowledge what's going on in quadrant 2. Quadrant 3, these are the ones we have a ton of access to, but they're not growable. This is where we need to be discerning. This is that quadrant of deception. This is where my claim is that we can spend half the time with the customers in this quadrant and keep all the business. But why do we spend so much time in this quadrant? Because we have taught ourselves that we have to show up every week, whether they like it or not. We have recognized the fact that it's easier to go to a place where you're going to get a handshake, maybe a hug, maybe someone will buy you a drink, sit you down, talk to you for a while. It's a safe place to go. Feels good, especially after you've been getting kicked in the teeth all day, knocking on doors that don't open. There is a gravitational pull to quadrant 3. My claim is that you can spend 50% of the time and keep 100% of the revenue. I'm going to leave that up to you to determine. But I'm going to challenge you to question whether or not these clients are the best place to dedicate so much of your time. This is the question you have to ask or answer for yourself. And then, of course, in quadrant 4, for symmetry purposes, these are the ones who we don't have access to, and they're not really growable. So it's red, but you're probably not losing any time here. Now, interestingly enough, I want to go back to quadrant 3 because there's value there. Hey, maybe they're not growable, but they are steady. One of my biggest accounts, maybe they're spending, I can count on them for 200 grand a year. They're not growable, but I can't ignore them. I'm not telling you should. But those great customers, those are also the ones that are most likely to give you the great answers to that question framework I just walked you through. When they get more specific with you, pay close attention to what they say and pay close attention to what they don't. Because that sweet spot of, here's what I know I need to do to keep your business, and here's what I thought I needed to do to keep your business that you didn't mention, that's where that free time comes from. Also, perhaps more importantly, when you ask for a referral or an introduction, Does that maybe move someone from your quadrant 2 into your quadrant 1? Does that perhaps pull someone that you weren't even aware of into your quadrant 1? So again, that yellow 3 is about being a little more discerning about how we spend that time, how we use those resources. There is a ton of value to extract there. Let's look at those relationships a little bit differently. Now here's your exercise. I'm going to give you, 10 minutes. And what I'd like you to do is take maybe your top 20 accounts and score them. So, and all my high school geometry teachers would be really upset with this, this axis here, because zeros are always supposed to be in the middle and tens and numbers are supposed to be at the outsides. That's not how we're doing it here. I'm breaking the rules. But I'd like you to score your top 10, top 20 customers. Everybody's customer base is a little bit different. I'd like you to score your top 10, top 20 customers, whatever you get the time to do. Just write 3 columns, write a list, and then write growable, and then write accessible. So 3 columns. Customer name, growable on a score of 1 to 10, accessible on a score of 1 to 10. If someone is a 5-5, they're right in the middle. You'll find you don't have too many of those. If someone is a 10-10, they should be your highest priority. My guess here is that we're going to find a lot of 8s or 9s with 3s for growability. That is going to put them square in quadrant 3, and someone who is going to lead you to believe that maybe there's something else. Maybe this time there'll be something for me, and maybe it'll be a big project. But we can't count on growth from that. So I'm going to give you 10 minutes. I will set a timer. I'm going to play a little music. Hopefully it isn't too loud. I'd like, if I'm going to start it in a minute, just tell me if it's too loud. I can back it down. Teams is a little different than Zoom when I do this, but this is where, you got something to write on, you got something to write with. 3 columns, score your top 10 accounts. And I'm here if you have any questions. I will start the timer right now. Okay, we got a couple minutes left. If you, I see a lot of people with their heads kind of poking up a little bit here. If you need more time, drop 2 in the chat. If you're ready to come back and discuss this right now, just drop a 1. So 1 if you're ready to talk, 2 if you need 2 more minutes. Leslie's ready. A lot of people
I started
are
before
on.
the instructions was over, so I got you.
Well, there you go. A lot of people are going to make their next decision based on whether or not they want to listen to this ZZ Top song. All right, we got some 1s. Hearing no 2s or seeing no 2s. I'm gonna cut the music. We'll fade it down like a professional DJ would.
I never even heard music.
You didn't hear music?
No.
Oh, that's problematic. Nobody told me that they weren't hearing music. I'm just here jamming.
That's so funny.
Okay, well then there is I found the flaw in Teams. Okay. Cool. So just 8 minutes of silence. All right, I'll have to figure that out for next time. Okay, what did we come up with? Who wants to share? Who learned something? Leslie, you got your hand raised. Go ahead.
Yeah, starting with my top 20, obviously I do a lot of hospitals, as you know, since you got to ride with me. The first thing was Baycare, because I've lost a big sector of their business. So I've had to pivot my intention on equipment and projects. So that's been an interesting transition, trying to not completely banish my business there, growing it in other ways. So they're all 10 out of 10. That's 4 of them. And then with Health Trust, I mean, this is kind of like I've already got stuff in the pipeline. So I know they're all 4 10 out of 10s because we've got projects coming. I'm waiting on stuff to happen. Of course, I've got 5 other hospitals that we're doing overhauls on all their kitchens. So I wanted to focus primarily on things that I didn't get. So I put Bayfront because we were about to do $1 million renovation. They lost all their funds. Orlando Health made some bad hospital purchases. So I'm just pivoting on making myself present, knowing they're ordering off the MOG, but asking what else I can do to help their operation in other ways, to keep myself in their face. I have a couple of restaurants that aren't buying as much this year as they did last year. Some cases their business is slow, or they're mad about freight costs. So I got them like 1 at a 7 out of 10, 1 at a 5 out of 10.
This
And
is
then, of course,
this is in terms of growth that you're
growth,
okay.
accessibility and growth.
Okay,
So yeah, I've got all of them. Like, I'm not sure about a couple of restaurants what growth potential is, but I put them at a 7 and a 5.
Okay.
But they're both accessible.
Fully accessible. Like they answer every time you call.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah, we text all the time. We email all the time. And it's generally about small glassware orders or what do I owe you? So I want to make sure I'm building that business instead of just reacting to it.
Sure.
And then I have another restaurant that I just now remembered, that I've talked him into redoing his front bar. So that's very accessible in there every week. So we're going to be doing a project with them. And then another restaurant that I'm redoing that is very 10 out of 10. So there is definitely, there's customers I've lost and customers who are like I don't know what it is. It's like, it's October. I'm like, where is your seasonal orders? Right. So I've got a list of 4 restaurants that, call me once in a while when they need something, but I'm also finding out they're buying from somebody else down the street from them. So I got to get more in their face and go, it's October. What are we doing? And a couple of accounts that I've lost to a competitor that they just had somebody leave our company and went to another company, and they're primarily going with them, but he's retired now. So I'm reaching out to them. I did that yesterday.
Sure.
Like, come back to me. What can I do to earn your business back? So it gave me a good focus for what I need to do next week.
Good. And would you say that, obviously if we go and say I'm mirrored, right? So when I'm going upper left, it looks like upper right to you. So let me just reverse myself. That upper right or that upper left-hand corner, that quadrant 1, the closer you are to the absolute corner, that should have more of your time and attention, right? Than the stuff that's closer to the middle. So do you find that, when you review your calendar for the week or even for the month, because you're not going to, some of these you're going to need to see a little less often, do you find that those priorities match up with your calendar? Are you spending your time the right way?
If I'm not hearing from somebody for a while, I'll just be like, hey, I found this product I think would really fit in your hotel. it made me think of you. Here's a quote for it. Let me know when I can come in and chat, bring a sample. Like something simple like that. It just takes a couple of minutes to go, hey, wait, I was thinking about you about this.
Sure.
And then follow up. So it does fit in where I have pockets of availability in the afternoons, and that's when I do these things that I'm not hearing from people very often.
Good. So you're making sure that these priorities are getting the attention they need.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks for sharing.
Sure.
Thomas Wickham, your showroom guy.
I started listing customers, and then I kind of shifted to like market segments for me. So for me, I listed them as plumbing contractors, my Latin customers, my Arabic customers, my Asian customers, because they really all work very different, and they all have good potential, and they all have varying degrees of accessibility. So if you asked earlier what I learned that I'm able to use some of my partners to break into that Latin market, but I'm having trouble with the Arabic community, and I'm having great success with the plumbing contractors. So the scores are pretty interesting to look at when I look at each market segment for me. Yeah.
Love the way you took that. What does it teach you about where you may need to invest different resources, like you mentioned with your Arabic market, because you don't have as much access there,
Right.
versus what does it teach you about how you spend your time and efforts now versus maybe the way you could, to best grow some different segments?
Well, for that segment specifically is referral, right? So really leaning on the 5 groups that I'm doing business with to help me get into the other 5 that I can't get in touch with, or I can't reach, or are not coming in. So for me, leaning on that community to spread my wings within their community. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. Chad, I haven't heard from you in a bit. You said you were done with this anyway.
Hi. Yes. What I went down the columns and noticed is that the first growable and accessible numbers will change in between the different customers. But when I'm looking at the chart, the growable, non-growable, I see myself more on the left side, 1 and 3, not spending as much time in number 2 is what I probably need to focus more on.
Awesome. Thanks for saying that. That's what I thought I would see. I think that's what a lot of people will see. That is what most account managers, that's where they live. Right? So I guess my question for you is, have you identified accounts in quadrant 2 that you can spend some time on if you can free it up from quadrant 3?
Yeah, I need to look into that.
Awesome. Team, I thought this was a great session. I appreciated all the engagement here. The new faces, Adam and Leslie, thanks for joining us. Looking forward to seeing you in a couple weeks. Our next session is going to break down the sales process a little bit differently. And I've got a way to help you kind of identify, are you spending the right time on the right activities? This was this system that I developed for myself, 17, 18 years ago. It was another new perspective kind of thing on my sales activities. And I learned a lot, and I want to share that with you. So we're going to talk about that in 2 weeks. Also, going to let everybody know there is a quiz, a very short quiz coming with a link in the next newsletter. This whole program is actually kind of a certification program that Ian and I worked to develop. And so it's a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek quiz. It's 6 multiple choice questions that are not going to beat you up, but and it's open book and open note and open video and whatever you need from it. But that's coming as part of this. So keep an eye out for that. Thanks again, everybody. Have a great weekend. If you have any questions, you know how to get a hold of me. And if I don't hear from you, then I wish you well, and I will see you in a couple weeks. Thanks, team.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Jeff.
it.
We'll talk to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go Mariners. Go Mariners.
Hey.
See ya.